Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalapa Girivadadari
Gopi Janavalapa Girivadadari
Gopi Janavalapa Girivadadari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtadhara Shri Srimad Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home, on text 22. Patishtate tu vanam pitra Tatvagam dharma sangshayaha Shatrim varsha sahasram Rakshithavyayatendriyaha Tistate tu vanam pitra Tatvagam dharma sangshayaha Shatrim Shadvarsha Sahasram Rakshithavyayatendriyaha Patishtate tu vanam pitra Bhagam dharma sangshayaha Shatrim Shadvarsha Sahasram Rakshithavya Yatendriyaha Vastite Tuvanam Pitra Datvagam Dharma Sangshayaha Shatrim Shadvarsha Sahasram Rakshithavya Yatendriyaha Rashite Tuvanam Pitra
Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha
Oh,
Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya
would you like to chant?
Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha Vashyate suvanam hitta Tatvagam dharma samshraya Sattvinsharvashasahasram Prakshitavyahatindriyaha
Would you like to chant? Oh, okay. Okay, word by word translation. Pratishtite,
Vashyate
after departure.
after departure.
To, but.
But
Lanam,
Lanam
to the forest.
to the forest.
Pitra,
Mitra
by your father.
by your father.
Tattva,
Tattva
awarding.
awarding.
Gam,
Gam
the whole world.
the whole world.
Dharma Sangshayaha,
Dharma samshraya
under the protection of piety.
under the protection of piety.
Shatring Shat,
Sattvinshat
36.
36.
Varsha,
Varsha
years.
years.
Sahasram,
Sahasram
1,000.
1,000.
Rakshita,
Prakshita
you will rule.
rule.
Avyahata,
Avyahata
without decay.
without decay.
Indriyaha,
Indriyaha
the power of the senses.
power of the senses.
Translation. This is Lord Vishnu speaking to Dhruva Maharaj, right? After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years. And all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Purport. In the Satyuga, people generally live for 100,000 years. Dhruva Maharaj is ruling the world for 36,000 years was quite possible in those days. So I'll just read one more. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother, Uttama, will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother, Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj came to the forest to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a revenging spirit against his stepmother. His stepmother had insulted Dhruva, who was not an ordinary person, but a great Vaishnav. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnav is the greatest offense in this world. Because of having insulted Dhruva Maharaj, Suruchi would become mad upon the death of her son and would enter a forest fire, and thus her life would be ended. This was specifically mentioned by the Lord to Dhruva because he was determined for revenge against her. From this we should take the lesson that we should never try to insult a Vaishnav. Not only should we not insult a Vaishnav, but we should not insult anyone unnecessarily. When Suruchi insulted Dhruva Maharaj, he was just a child. She of course did not know that Dhruva was a great recognized Vaishnav, and so her offense was committed unknowingly. When one serves a Vaishnav unknowingly, one still gets the good result. And if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnav, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnav is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 stanzas of prayer to the spiritual master, has sung Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is a pure Vaishnav, one pleases the personality of Godhead. But if one displeases the spiritual master, one does not know where he is going. Jai. Om Jnanatipadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshunadaritamya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karivachalam Pangam Langai Teginim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitanam Pancha Kapadribhishya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll read the verses again. After your father goes to the forest, Lord Vishnu speaking to Dhruva Maharaj, after your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother, Uttama, will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting he will be killed. Your stepmother, Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go search him out in the forest, but she'll be devoured by a forest fire. So, in the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, the International Society for Krishna Movement, some may say that we're still in the early days. It's been in America, around the world for 50 years, but in the earlier days, Srila Prabhupada was going around the world and initiating devotees. And he initiated about 5,000 disciples. Means he accepted them formally as disciples, and they promised to follow certain vows and chanting of rounds on japa, mala. And he gave them spiritual names and so on, so the formal student and teacher relationship. And in some cases, Srila Prabhupada would give the initiation quite freely or easily, you may say. There was one case in the Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita where a boy wanted to get initiated, and Prabhupada asked him 2 questions. One question was, who is Krishna? And the boy said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada said, who are you? And he said, I am his servant. And he said, okay, you could get initiated then. And he initiated him sometime after. So he was doing that, and although he was doing that, there was one case where some young boy got initiated in San Francisco, and he went through the whole ceremony and everything, and then devotees just didn't see him again. He just disappeared. didn't see him back at the temple again. And devotees asked Prabhupada about the boy, and he said, oh, he never got initiated. He doesn't know what initiation was. He never accepted it, really. It's an interesting comment. So in relation to this, we're talking, the main purport here is talking about Vaishnavas and the spiritual master, the guru, and giving us some idea of how to deal with Vaishnavas and deal with the spiritual master in the most beneficial way. So it's not, just as everybody knows it's not so easy to understand Krishna, it's not so easy to, it's not so easy to understand Krishna. So similarly, it's not so easy to understand a Vaishnava, or it's not so easy to understand the Guru. And in the sense that, of course, you could say the general instructions are there. The spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and other spiritual masters are giving general instructions which are there. But to exactly understand the mind of a Vaishnava is not easy. Because there's a bit of a, you could say, mysterious, or Prabhupada said mystic. Prabhupada said the definition of mystic, it's mystic because the people don't know. For example, someone may have mystic powers. They may be able to do this or do that, so many things. But to them, they've just somehow ever learned that art. But to everybody else, oh, it's so amazing, right? So there's a bit of a mysterious or mystic, you could say, element to Krishna and to the spiritual master, to the Guru, in the sense that Srila Prabhupada describes the word grave in the Nectar of Devotion. He says grave means you don't understand what the person's thinking. That's one definition of that. So it's not so easy. So why I'm saying this is because generally, or a lot of the times, especially within these, when you say modern or postmodern, these days of Kali Yuga, people, they like to think themselves very intelligent. And maybe on some level they are. But there's intelligent, there's being intelligent, and there's being over-intelligent. Or there's thinking, and then there's overthinking. So what I mean by that is that they think that they're so intelligent that they could so easily understand Krishna, and they think they're so intelligent they could easily understand their Guru. Means whether passing unnecessary criticism or judgment on one's Guru, and on also devotees, without really knowing. And sometimes, I wonder to myself, because, there's different types of people, and they have different types of minds and different types of thought processes. We're all different. So sometimes I wonder to myself, because you have a certain, you could say, class of people, certain individuals who, they're really into analytical thinking and, so many questions and all these different things. And sometimes people think that those people, they're the most fortunate, right? They're such a great thinker and, asking so many questions, very intelligent and everything. And then there's other people who are not like that. You could say they're more simple, and you could say their faith is more easily established. So sometimes I wonder to myself who is more fortunate, because a lot of the times the people who are more simple and their faith is easily established and so on, is that they have less of a difficult time in the realm of criticism, in the realm of passing unnecessary judgments and so on. Whereas the thinkers, it's, they think and they think and they think everything to death. And therefore, when dealing with people and associating with people, other devotees, one spiritual master, they overthink. Well, why did he say this? Why didn't he do this? Why isn't he doing this? And I read in Hari Bhakti Vilas that you're supposed to do this, and my guru, he didn't do that, and it's just think, overthink. And then it just becomes offensive. Whereas people who just maybe we're just more faithful, more not like that, then they have a tendency not to do that. They just serve. So it's questionable. Of course, it's nice to have both, but it's being balanced. And in relation to this, Srila Prabhupada, he, again in the early days, he had two managers, GBC men, two managers, and Srila Prabhupada was asking them to both do something in relation to managing the society. And what Prabhupada asked them to do is he said that every temple has to be separately incorporated. It cannot be under an umbrella. It cannot be an umbrella. It all has to be separately incorporated, every temple. And both of them actually couldn't understand this. They couldn't accept this. They think Prabhupada was making a mistake. That it's better to have it under an umbrella. It shouldn't be separately incorporated. So both of them are thinking Prabhupada was making a mistake, and they couldn't understand where he was coming from. So, and Srila Prabhupada said that if we have it on an umbrella, the lawyers are just going to try to take everything. That's what they're doing. You know, sometimes lawyers are like that, right? So one of the GBC, one of the managers, he resigned his position. I can't understand this, and he just gave up his position. And the other one said, okay, I can't understand this, but anyways, Prabhupada wants to do it, so I'm going to do it. So that was the better option, not doubting. So here we are reading the dangers of offending devotees, and that, I mean, this is very severe. This is, it says that Suruchi, the stepmother of Dhruva Maharaj, who offended Dhruva Maharaj, because of her offense, it says here that she went to the forest and she was devoured by a forest fire. I mean, that's very severe. And even above that, it was done unknowingly. It means she didn't recognize Dhruva Maharaj as a great devotee. She didn't know that. But even though she didn't know that, she still had to suffer the bad reaction. Really. Yeah, also the son getting killed. Yeah. So it's quite an interesting point. But then on the positive side, it says that one who serves a devotee, even unknowingly, they get the benefit. So that's so in this in a book of essays by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our spiritual teachers, he describes an essay on prajalpa, which means unnecessary talk or nonsense talk. He describes this idea of blaspheming sadhus or saintly people, and the, you could say, evil effects that it has. So I'll just read something from that book, that essay. Unless one speaks in this way while instructing and while concluding a subject, there is no benefit for oneself or others. Therefore, when the previous acharyas have personally set the example and taught others, how will we be benefited by acting contrary to their instruction? No. So this is what I'm about to read is in relation to spiritual teachers, such as Srila Prabhupada, which he did sometimes, talking about others, or you could say criticizing others, and how it's actually good and how it's fine that he did that. And if one discusses in this way then proper behavior current in a religious sect or amongst the general public, then such talk is not adverse to devotional service. Even if one sometimes talks about a particular person, there is no fault. In the srimadbhagavatam 4.14.29, Maitreya Muni, the foremost devotee, spoke about Vena Maharaj in this way. So a devotee is speaking about Vena Maharaj. Here we'll hear how he spoke about him. The great sage... Evil guy. Yeah. Okay. 4:14:29. The great sage Maitreya continued, thus the king who became unintelligent due to his sinful life and deviation from the right path became actually bereft of all good fortune. He could not accept the requests of the great sages, which the sages put before him with great respect, and therefore he was condemned. Sri Maitreya Rishi needed to speak about others in this way. He spoke to his audience to instruct them. This is not prajalpa. The practicing devotee normally discusses ancient history in the association of devotees. Occasionally they talk about non-devotees. Such talk is always auspicious, good, and favorable to devotional service. But those who talk about others while influenced by devotional impediments like envy, hatred, pride, or distinction are offenders at the feet of Bhakti Devi. So there's a case, this is saying that for a spiritual leader or to talk about others, you could say negatively, with the idea of instructing people is not bad. It's favorable to devotional service. Because sometimes within India, people have or throughout the world, people have an idea that you shouldn't criticize others, especially religious leaders. That's really bad. So when Prabhupada went to India, the same people saying you shouldn't criticize spiritual leaders, they were criticizing Prabhupada for criticizing spiritual leaders. You know, they're putting themselves in a superior position, criticizing Prabhupada. Yeah, and they were cheaters. So if you listen to Srila Prabhupada's conversations or morning walks, it's all recorded. You listen to his morning walks. And Prabhupada would go on a morning walk in Juhu every morning when he was there, in India, Bombay, right? So he would walk with this Dr. Patel. And Dr. Patel, he was smart. I mean, he knew Sanskrit, so many things. But he would argue with Prabhupada about the philosophy and this and that. So one day, Prabhupada brought up a prominent spiritual figure in India at the time. And how Prabhupada spoke about him, how Prabhupada spoke about him, it completely offended Dr. Patel, and he became livid. He became so angry, and they started arguing with each other. Prabhupada was raising his voice, Dr. Patel was raising his voice, and then Dr. Patel's friends or cronies, whatever, they said, "Oh, hey, Dr. Patel, stop! You know, Swamiji has a heart issue. Don't make him angry." So they were discussing, they're arguing, and you could hear these morning walks. Nice. So then Dr. Patel used to go on the morning walk every single day, and then after that he just stopped going. He stopped going on the walks. So then about 2 or 3 days passed, and Dr. Patel was walking on one side of the beach, and Prabhupada was walking on the other side, opposite directions. And then Dr. Patel, he came up to Prabhupada, he offered his obeisances, and then he got up, and he said, "Oh, Swamiji, I apologize," this and that. He said, "But I was taught that I should respect all the spiritual leaders, all the religious leaders of India." And then Prabhupada paused and he said, "That's okay." He said, "I was taught," I'll go back, sorry. Dr. Patel said, "I was taught how to respect all the saints of India." And then Prabhupada paused and he looked at Dr. Patel and he said, "Yes, and I was taught to explain who is a saint and who is not a saint." So he didn't. So the point was that Prabhupada would criticize these people, or he would, because they were cheating people. And they were not actually saints. They were cheaters in so many different ways, which we won't get into the ways in which they were cheaters. You could use your imagination cheating. So in this way, it's not actually a problem. But if one actually criticizes a saintly person, then it is a problem. And this is what, I'll just read some more what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about that. He says, speech in the form of blaspheming sadhus is the source of great inauspiciousness. If one wants to attain devotion to Lord Hari, then he should make a vow, or she should make a vow like this. In this life, I will never blaspheme sadhus. Devotees are sadhus. By blaspheming them, all one's virtues are destroyed. By blaspheming the supremely pure Lord Mahadev, Shiva, Prajapati Daksha, the best of ascetics, met with severe inauspiciousness, as stated in srimadbhagavatam. So it gives the result of what Daksha offending Shiva, and this is the result. It's in Bhagavatam 10:4-46. It's interesting. It says 10. My dear king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, which means long life, beauty, fame, religion, blessings, and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. So in other words, they really lose out. The conclusion of this essay is this: whatever prajalpa is not favorable for devotional service should be carefully given up by Vaishnavas who are cultivating bhakti. Amongst these instructions, so yeah, it goes on like that. So the idea is that it's very detrimental to our spiritual lives, and you could say one of the points in the purport is that the Suruchi, the stepmother, didn't know that Dhruva Maharaj was a great devotee, and still she got the reaction. So you could say that one of the issues is that we may not know who is a Vaishnav, and then we blaspheme them. So, for example, of course, in the Bhagavatam and so many other books, they gives a description of who is a Vaishnav. So you could say, okay, we have a general description of who is a Vaishnav, right? One who chants Krishna's name once, one who's accepted initiation. There's so many descriptions of different types of Vaishnavas. But still, one may offend and not know that they're offending a Vaishnava. And there's an example that I'll give here. So this is about Pundarik Vidyanidhi. I always like this. This is really a wonderful description. So this is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he's a great devotee in Lord Chaitanya's times. He is a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri, and he was Gadadhar Pandit's guru. He's just a very wonderful, ecstatic devotee in Lord Chaitanya's times, around 500 years ago. And here it gives the description. It says, whoever recites or hears the following narration of the meeting of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sri Gadadhar Pandit will receive the treasure of love of God. So that's good for us. So here it is. When he first arrived in Navadvip, Pundarik Vidyanidhi disguised himself as a worldly sense enjoyer. Besides Mukunda, nobody knew that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a pure Vaishnava. Today I will introduce you to the most exceptional Vaishnava, said Mukunda as he took Gadadhar Pandit to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So Mukunda was taking Gadadhar Pandit to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. They found Pundarik reclining, so this is how he disguised himself as a worldly sense enjoyer, in case any of you want to do that. They found Pundarik reclining on an opulent brass bed covered with red satin sheets, silk pillows, and topped with a 3-tiered canopy. A gem-studded, you say pan or pan? Pan. It's the chewing, it's like chewing, I don't know, you say tobacco or what? Something like that. Oh, it's like a leaf, okay. And you get intoxicated, get a little intoxicated. So, a gem-studded. I wonder if it numbs the mouth. A gem-studded pond box stuffed with fragrant spices and betel nuts, waited within arm's reach. 2 shiny brass spittoons stood at silent sentries beside the bed, because when you have the pond, you have to get a nice spittoon, Seeing the mirror stained red from chewing pond, Pundarik laughed heartily. 2 servants cooled him with peacock fans. So, it's a pretty good disguise. Was this a Vaishnav or a prince wallowing in luxury? Wallowing in luxury, wondered Gadadhar Pandit. Doubts arose in Gadadhar Pandit's mind about Pundarik's spiritual status. Reading his mind, Mukunda decided to reveal the highly exalted transcendental identity of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So Mukunda, who brought Gadadhar Pandit there, he understood, he's having doubts. So he wanted to reveal Pundarik Vidyanidhi's spiritual position. Mukunda recited srimadbhagavatam 10:6-35. Do you know the Sanskrit for that, Jyotir Prabhu? I think you do. About Putana, how merciful. Aho Bhakti. Yeah, so this is a translation, very famous verse. English. Always hankering to taste the blood of small children. Putana came to kill baby Krishna. So this is in Krishna's pastimes. His life in Krishna book you could read. Putana came to kill Krishna. However, because she offered her breast to the Supreme Lord, Putana attained the greatest blessing of being accepted as the mother of Krishna. It means Krishna accepted the good and he brought her back to the spiritual world. Interesting enough. He didn't send her to hell. Hearing this verse totally transformed Pundarik Vidyanidhi. As Ganges rivers of tears flooded his eyes. Perspiration rained from his body. His hairs stood erect. He ripped off his embroidered silk shirt and wildly thrashed his legs about. Rolling on the ground, he wailed, "The Lord is infinitely merciful, yet he deprives me of his mercy. His clothes, brass bed, fine bedsheets." So in other words, he's going in complete ecstasy. Fine bedsheets, mirrors, spittoons, all his opulent trappings were ripped to shreds, smashed to bits. 10 men tried but couldn't restrain the force of Pundarik's ecstasy. The manifestations of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's pure love for Krishna competed with one another for some time. Finally, his spiritual emotions reached their peak and he lost external consciousness. After witnessing his spectacular display of transcendental feelings, Gadadhar Pandit realized his offense in misjudging Pundarik Vidyanidhi to be a materialistic devotee. To rectify his mistake, he wanted to take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. 6 hours later, Sri Pundarik returned to external consciousness. Now he seemed calm and composed. Happily, he initiated Gadadhar Pandit. So that's a case where somebody didn't know that one personality was as great as he was, and then, of course, this was a happy ending. You could say that Gadadhar Pandit realized his greatness, and then he accepted shelter, initiation from accepting him as a guru. So the idea is just to be careful in our dealings and know that, as Prabhupada states here, pleasing or displeasing the Guru, and Guru is not alone, he's also the devotees, the Vaishnavas, then one pleasing or displeasing directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of Krishna. So if we want to make Krishna happy, then we want to serve and respect the spiritual master and also the devotees. And one devotee, Tamal Krishna Goswami, I heard him say this. He said that if you want to please Krishna, then you should please the Guru. because Krishna's happy when the Guru's happy. And if you want to please the Guru, you should please Krishna, because the Guru's happy when you please Krishna. And he said, if you want to please both the Guru and Krishna, then you please the Vaishnavas, or you serve the Vaishnavas. So I thought that was quite clever. All right, does anybody have any, yes, Bhajan Rain Swami?
All under one corporation or individual,
Yeah.
and Prabhupada being insistent on doing it individually.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of the managers in ISKCON, we went through 2 very heavy lawsuits. And both times we were saved because we were individually incorporated. So Prabhupada was completely correct. It saved us. I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Gorkashore Das Babaji, this, Pundarik Vidyanidhi disguising himself, Gorkashore Das Babaji was very renounced and, one of, exalted personality, and therefore everyone was offering him respects, and he didn't like that. Oh, there's Gorkashore Das Babaji, what can I do? He didn't like it.
Yeah.
So he had one of his associates, a friend, a follower, bought him a nice silk dhoti and silk top, and he even got a pocket watch, a gold pocket watch. And everyone thought, oh, this is Gorkashore. They thought, oh, he says, whatever. So it worked for I don't know how long, couple weeks, month, something like that. He visited. I doubt he participated. But the point is that when they figured it out, wait, this is Gorkashore Das Babaji just trying to avoid being praised, then he gave all that stuff and he was living in an outhouse. So, these are far out things, just so that no one would bother him or respect him or try to offer some praise and service. So these are extreme examples. A lot of these examples in the Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita are extremes.
Yeah.
And not that we should imitate.
Yeah, usually, we don't try to imitate that.
Yeah. In case, you see me with a hookah and a girlfriend, and I say, oh, it's just my leela, you can't perceive my deep realization. So, there it is. So I wanted to know, and I have a thought about it, that, Krishna's unlimitedly merciful. He's Karuna Sindhu, he's Dinu Bandhu, he's merciful to the fallen, and yet we just get whacked with these heavy reactions if we don't know. How is that? Where is Krishna's mercy if I don't know?
Yeah.
It sounds like, God throwing thunderbolts and smiting and smoting and sending people to hell. Come on.
Smiting, smoting, smitten. Yeah. Well, one is that the world is a place in which we're supposed to learn lessons. And sometimes we learn by very, you could say, dramatic or intense experiences what not to do. Like if somebody, right, they stick their hand in the fire and it gets burnt, and they realize, okay, well, I shouldn't do that. It was pretty stupid. Or so many things. If somebody's, God forbid, but somebody's driving in their car without a seatbelt and they get in some heavy accident and something bad happens, then it's a lesson. Some girl came to the lounge. This was a few years ago, and she had a cane and she was blind, and her friend was with her taking care of her, bringing her around and everything. And then I go around and talk with people. I said, oh, hey, how's it going? And what's going on? How do you guys come to the lounge? This and that. And then we talked, and then some time passed, and then she was asking if I could pray for her. Whatever. It's okay that she asked me to pray for her, but anyways, what power do I have? But she was asking me to pray. So I said, okay, I'll do that and this and that. And she said that what happened to her, the thing that really caught me, she asked me, do you wear your seatbelt every time you drive in the car? And I said, yeah, I mean, for the most, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll go down to the store or something. Not worries. I said, yeah, I do. And she said, well, you should. You have to, because I'm in this situation because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And she said, I was driving from my college, SDSU, a few exits, and I got into a severe car accident. Now I cannot see. I'm blind, and so many things. She hopefully gets her vision back. So it's a severe lesson, and yeah, she herself will never ride in the car without a seatbelt, and she'll encourage other people not to. I mean, she'll encourage other people to have a seatbelt on. I mean, I was at the dentist one time, and there's an old elderly woman, and you know, she saw me dressed like this. She said, "Oh, hello," and you know, she had teeth, and oh, hello, and this and that. And then some time passed. I went in there. I got my teeth cleaned, or whatever. And then I come out, and I see the same woman. She went in, and then she came out, and then she was out in the lobby, and no teeth. So she had no teeth, and then, well, I don't know, she had her dentures or something. I don't know, they're doing some of their dent or whatever they're doing. So she told me, she showed me she had no teeth, and yeah, she said something like that. Hey, take care of your teeth. You know, I was like, okay, you know, all right, I'll do that. Thanks. So, you know, yeah, so that sticks with me. You know, okay, take care of my teeth. Okay, wear a seatbelt. You know this. So there are certain, you could say, examples that are given in Shastra to it's almost it's there to teach us. And and Krishna teaches us by examples of his pure devotees. For example, pure devotees of Krishna, they're put into suffering sometimes, like in the Bhagavatam, the Pandavas and exiled, and so many suffering conditions. Apparently, suffering conditions are put in. So, if an atheistic person is put into suffering, then they just God doesn't exist, or if he does exist, you know, he's not a merciful God. In other words, they do not know how to deal with it, and they don't set the good example how to deal with it. But the pure devotees, they do. They say, so for us, that when we undergo suffering, we know how to deal with it. Why? Because they teach us. So in other words, the Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj, and so many other personalities, whether it's, you could say, by doing something we get benefit, or by, like for example, by serving Vaishnavas we get benefit. That's stated in the Bhagavatam, and there's examples. But also by offending the Vaishnavas, such bad reactions are there. So in other words, Krishna's setting this all up so we can learn the lesson without having to suffer unnecessarily. So it is an act of mercy. But it's like she died in the forest fire, but of course the soul doesn't die. I mean, she gets another chance. It's not that like, oh, well, she offended Dhruva Maharaj, and, you know, she's an evil woman. They have a song like that. Anyways, I guess some guy was mad at his girlfriend, evil woman. Anyways, but mad at his wife or something. But it's not she was just an evil person. And then Krishna said, okay, you're going to die in a forest fire, and after that, you're going to burn in a fire forever. You know, and it's, in other words, hell. He didn't say that. It's a temporary reaction, and then there's some chances in the future. So that's nice. That's how Krishna's merciful. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's some mics, actually. 2 mics. Okay.
What about the offense in mind? Like, how bad is the reaction?
Offense in the mind.
Yeah, because sometimes...
Well, in previous ages, there's cases in the Bhagavatam. In previous ages, it's understood that you get the bad reaction or the karmic reaction for offenses in the mind. But because in this age of Kali it's so difficult to control the mind, you could say one reason is that the offenses we commit in the mind are not taken so seriously. But still, that's not an excuse to have an offensive mentality. Oh, well, hey, I'm not going to get a reaction for this, so in my mind, I could be calling Jagannath Tirtha this or that, or criticizing him, or just for example. I'm not going to get a reaction. Because what we meditate on in the mind eventually it comes out in the mouth, comes out of the mouth, or we just end up doing it, whatever it may be. So that's the thing. So we have to be careful that sometimes maybe some offensive mentalities there, but not to let it fester and not to let it grow. To kind of cut it off. So that's the idea, I think. Did somebody?
Hare Krishna. I don't. Oh, it is working. Okay. So you were speaking about passing judgment, and you brought up the example of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Gadadhar Pandit. Obviously, it's a transcendental example because Gadadhar Pandit is a manifestation of Godhead, so he's omniscient, omnipotent, so he could understand what Pundarik Vidyanidhi was thinking. But for Leela, did that. But in circumstances of ourselves or myself, could you speak about passing judgment on devotees based on the fluctuations of our mind? Faith that my mind knows what's right, and I can tell what you're thinking, I can tell what you're feeling, and therefore, I'm going to judge you. I'm going to, what's that saying? Something about a dog. You know that one?
Give a dog a bad name and hang
it. Yeah. So you just, stick the label on someone. Oh, he must be thinking that. So therefore,
You never heard that? It's a pretty dramatic statement, right?
And without asking the person, what did you mean? But just
therefore, in any type of relationship, there has to be communication, because naturally there's going to be misunderstanding. One person is thinking, another person's thinking a certain thing, but they're not thinking that at all, and so on. So there has to be communication, and that's intelligent, actually, to communicate. And to not communicate is unintelligent. Although the person who's not communicating, they think, oh, I'm very intelligent because I know exactly what this person's thinking, but they don't. There's a saying, it's because in the court system, right, there's the judge, there's the jury, and in some cases there's the executioner, right? In this example, there's the executioner. So if somebody wants to be, the judge, means they make the final decision how to punish a particular person, and they want to be the jury who helps, you could say, makes the decision, and they want to be the executioner, right? They want to do everything. So so in other words, this idea of not communicating with people and not finding out what they're really thinking is in that light that, hey, because I'm very intelligent, I know how this person is. I don't have to check with anybody. Because also in this book here, or this essay here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's saying that somebody, it said here that this, here it says, we read it, but those who talk about others, means passing judgment on others, right? This is all in a negative light. Talk about others while influenced by devotional impediments like envy, hatred, pride, or distinction are offenders at the feet of bhakti. So somebody may be seeing a fault in somebody that doesn't exist based on envy or hatred or whatever it is. So, they could check with somebody who's, you could say, relatively free from these things and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about this person. What do you think? And the person may say, well, and you check with a few people and they say, hey, well, I think you're absolutely wrong. And that's rather than just coming up with the conclusion on our own. So that's the idea. So that's so much emphasized, right? We should check with guru, we should check with sadhu, with saintly people, we should check with shastra in terms of our decision making, in terms of our philosophical conclusions. So that's the idea. Not to, is that okay. Yeah.
If you want to be critical, then sufficient subject matter, at least in my heart, I don't have to work on without worrying about everybody else. So Prabhu said we should be strict with ourselves and lenient with others.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about that. Not lenient with ourselves and, strict with others, So, I mean, you give that nice example, Bajranaran Swami. You gave the example of you and His Holiness Niranjana Swami in Mayapur, and there was some devotee, and he came up and he just started criticizing everything and everyone, right? He started criticizing the sannyasis and the grihastas, the householders, and cow protection and this, like every single facet of... Yeah, perfect. And then Niranjana Swami, as you said, you two were there, and Niranjana Swami said, I understand that it seems you are very expert at finding faults. And if you examine your own heart, there'll be sufficient subject matter, right? That's what he said?
I was ready to strain my nature, and that's what the resident Swami said. If you study your own heart, you'll find sufficient subject matter. I mean, you're worried about everybody else. Hey, worry about yourself.
Yeah. Right. Does you had a question, comment?
Thank you for the thought-provoking class. Really nice subject matter. And I'm glad that Bhakta Zach brought up that point. That was something I was going to, because that's the flip side. It's okay to discuss the faults of cheaters or, if it will benefit the audience or yourself. But the other side of it is, are you motivated by envy, pride, or thinking you're something special? There's many people who, in their self-righteousness, criticize the society, criticize the leadership of the society, criticize the devotees, take it a step further, criticize devotees outside our particular branch. I mean, it just goes on and on. Self-righteously, they're convinced, and they'll find the association to solidify their conviction. One's so unfortunate when one follows that. But another thought that came to mind when you were speaking about that comment Prabhupada made about a disciple initiated, and then he never went again. Never came back again. Never, and it reminded me of a seminar that Bhanu Swami gave on Diksha, explained that Diksha means, the Sanskrit, it's based on Jiva Goswami's teachings, that Diksha means the transferal or the giving of transcendental knowledge, and the result is the destruction or destroying of sin within the person receiving the knowledge. So he didn't get any of that, and it made me wonder, because I won't say a name, but I thought of one of our Prabhus who used to be here doing service, initiated by someone I consider to be pure. Certainly his life is given for the service of others and selfless, constantly preaching in service to Prabhupada. Yet he's convinced that he's a rascal, and because of this, and that. And I was just wondering, well, how much did he really surrender to the medium through which Krishna gave him the opportunity to serve? To surrender and serve, how much of a relationship really existed if I hear some bozo who probably doesn't even know the devotee, just as seen externally and heard others think, I just wonder. It's so unfortunate when you get on that track, because you're really just digging your own grave when you start thinking negatively about people who are trying to serve the spiritual master.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It is sometimes, it's questionable sometimes if people actually surrender, like you were saying, this devotee, he finding some apparent faults in his spiritual master, but that's one of my main points, is that I see sometimes disciples of, grand disciples means persons initiated by Prabhupada's disciples, like myself, and I see them passing criticism and judgment on their own spiritual masters, like people who initiated them. And, okay, fine. I mean, if they want to think like that, if they want to be so bold and crazy and foolish, okay. But that's my main point, that they're not checking with anybody. They don't check with anybody. They themselves, with their intelligence, are coming to the conclusion that this person is doing something wrong. They have to check with people. It's really bad. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're checking with the wrong people. So you
Having that deep confidence because I think it must be true.
yeah. Yeah. And because I think it must be true, but also, yeah, the checking with not just a bunch of people, you know, like your own guys. I mean, the result of all this, they can't even follow the basic principles of Krishna consciousness. 4 regulative principles, chanting 16, they can't follow it. In other words, they just, you know, they're so intelligent that they can't follow the basics that a bhakta is following, or bhaktin is following. So it's, you know, you see the result. And they're unhappy, clearly. Disturbed, depressed, and, you know, they'll blame, oh, it's my guru or something, because he's not pure. Well, no, it's because you're not following it. You're not following Krishna consciousness. And you can see clearly on their face, you know, it's written all over their face how disturbed they are. And, you know, the proof, you know, they go on Facebook, write all about it, and so it's not. Anyways. Okay. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Oops.